Welcome to episode 266 of the Working Fans Podcast, where today myself and the man called Dave have a variety of topics we want to talk about, and we have a variety of flavors we want to bring to you via Game Up. Game Up Hard Hydration is like your favorite sports drink, your favorite seltzer. Had a baby, but it's so much better. Dave, give him the rundown.
You're talking about those varieties. You're talking about great flavors like fruit punch, orange, lemon lime, and grape. And guys, it's only 110 calories. It's low carb. Enjoy yourself some Game Up. Don't feel guilty about it.
And enjoy yourself some wrestling. We've been talking a lot about NXT's move to the CW. As it gets closer to that date, we're seeing bigger things happen this week on NXT. They expanded what they were presenting a little bit. We found out that Randy Orton is getting an opponent inside the ring, and he's taking on Javon Evans, which when I heard that, I'm like, all right, you already have my interest for week 2. What did you think about this matchup being made?
It's interesting. I like the fact that Javon Evans is getting the rub and is going to get to wrestle Randy Orton. Hopefully, he doesn't get squashed or anything like that. I don't think he will, but it's definitely interesting because I just did not see that coming. Of all the people Randy Orton could have wrestled, Javon, and I gotta believe you're doing that for a reason, right? And I don't think Javon's gonna win because it's in St. Louis. So it's got to be the situation where hopefully he just puts up a hell of a match and maybe Randy shakes his hand afterwards and gives him some approval.
Yeah, and what do you think we're going to see with CM Punk? Will this change his situation at all for Chicago? Will he still just be an appearance?
Well, he's going to be a special referee.
Oh, he is the referee for that match.
Yeah, that got announced at the very end of the show.
Okay. Yeah, obviously you can see when I didn't tune into.
Yeah. So with the Julia Roxanne Perez segment, you might remember he didn't really get to make his announcement, but at the very end, when they had the guy from the Indiana Pacers on there, he announced the guy at Trick Williams and All Eagle Ethan Page signed. And he said, also hit this guy's music. And that's when Punk came out. And Punk said, I had nothing to do with the ladies' match. I'm actually here for you guys. And he announced that he was going to be a special referee.
Okay, so we're getting interesting appearances for these. So it's do you think this is going to keep up much past the first 2 weeks? Will this be NXT's thing for a little while? Or do you think we're going to settle back into a regular CW show partway through the month? When does this go back to regular, you think?
I'll say we'll probably get at least a month of this, Great thing about NXT is they got great things going on now with TNA too. So, you're getting different TNA talent and now you're bringing down main roster talent. It probably a lot of it pertains to how they will do on the CW network rating wise. Anyway, I don't know what good ratings for the CW network will be, so I guess we'll see that. I imagine NXT is going to be the top rated show on this network. Although they have college football now, don't they?
I believe they do.
Yeah. So
I'm not as familiar with them. Obviously, I'm going to be watching a little more with NXT going there, but yeah, it'll be kind of see how they do.
Yeah, I think we're going to get a month of main roster major appearances. I mean, they booked a tag title match too already with Aussie Down Under there.
Down Under. When is that match?
I think that's on the second show.
Okay, so we're getting kind of 2 big matches a show, with one star at least in each match.
Yeah, we're definitely building up to each show. Obviously, Punk will be the referee for the world title match, and you have that women's world title match on Chicago, and Randy Orton in St. Louis, a world tag title match in St. Louis. So there's a lot of stuff being built up and being put together here.
Yeah, a lot of great involvement with different rosters, and you talk about not wanting to see a squash match with Javon Evans, and I brought it up as a negative last week, but I said, like, I thought I could have missed something. I would have liked to have seen more in Hammerstone versus Obafemi.
Sure.
This week we got Hammerstone versus Tony D'Angelo, and I was so unhappy with the end of this match.
With D'Angelo
What
walking
did
out.
you Yeah, what did you think when watching it?
Um, I guess later on, more as we're doing kind of the Rocky storyline with D'Angelo here, talking about being afraid. As far as Hammerstone goes, because that's obviously the topic you want to talk about, he was an afterthought. He wasn't the main focus here. The main focus is about Tony D'Angelo and Obafemi. Um, I'll say the bright side is he didn't lose. It ended up being just a weird countout victory that doesn't really do much for him. But I feel like the WWE is interesting right now because they're testing out some of these TNA talents and who they want to use and whatnot. And honestly, too, I mean, I don't know. I think that Hammerstone's best run so far has been in MLW with Court Bauer. Not to say that his TNA run's been that bad, but I definitely would say MLW is better. And so far, you see him in NXT and you just hope for bigger things because of the way he looks. But I don't know, maybe down the road, but right now, yeah, it certainly wasn't what I want. And I'm also surprised. And I've said it before. I guess I'm not a huge Tony D'Angelo fan. I think he's surprised me, and I want to give him some respect here. But at the same time, I just didn't see him as the guy necessarily beating Obafemi, and it looks like there's a possibility that's what they're setting up for here now.
Yeah, that's true. I would have liked to have seen. So my whole idea for this segment was Hammerstone getting done dirty by NXT. It's great that they're putting him on TV, but like the matches are like a quarter, a third of what he could do.
Right.
And I'm hoping that somehow his involvement in this feud leads to something bigger for him because he is such a great talent. Like you said, we saw him do big things in MLW. He's doing his run in TNA now. And it's just, I got so excited when I first saw him in that Obafemi match. And then it's like as time goes on, I'm expecting less and less out of his presentation here.
Yep, I can see that. I mean, that's the thing, right? Some of these guys, like, I mean, I feel like you can almost make that argument with Rosemary too. You know, her and Wendy Chu have this involvement, and they're doing storylines and stuff too. But at the end of the day, I don't see Rosemary getting this huge push, and I feel like, oh man, she's better than a lot of these other girls. Really, when it comes to the TNA guys and girls, Jordan Grace and Joe Henry are the ones who've gotten consistently the best pushes, I would say, out of all of them.
Definitely. Rosemary, even, I think, had a better match that she was in.
Sure.
You got to see a little more of her. So maybe this is wait and see for Hammerstone. I
Yeah,
think
I
he's
see what you
complaining
mean.
way too early, and it could be like, the next couple weeks he gets a big feature match. Maybe somehow they put him in a three-way with these guys. I don't know how it's going to work, but I hope that this is developing for him.
Right. Yeah. You're hoping for a better showcase of his talents. I saw a thing today where Joe Henry thanked Terry Taylor for all his time and being his coach at the Performance Center. So I saw that was pretty cool, but I also wondered, like, okay, so does that mean Joe Henry isn't going to the Performance Center right now? Like basically his run in in NXT is currently done, is what I'm wondering,
Oh, that's a good question.
So that might be a thing, they might be using some of these guys and girls for programs, and maybe they didn't really have anything specifically for Hammerstone. So it's like, okay, we're going to bring you in. We're not going to bury you, but you're going to be a showcase for Oba. And then you're going to kind of have this thing with the Don. We'll have you kind of talk it out. You won't lose the match, but you're not going to be the main focus. And let's just see what you do with the time we give you. Maybe it's something like that,
Yes, that's a good point. And all this talk about wrestling, yearly PWI comes out with their PWI 500. I just got it in the mailbox this week. And remember, the evaluation period runs from August 1st, 2023 to July 31st, 2024. The criteria are in-ring achievement, influence, technical ability, competition, and activity. So very quick, I'm going to give you a rundown of the top 10. After I give you the names, just give a quick thought each person.
Sure.
As you can see from the cover here, Cody Rhodes obviously made number 1.
Yeah, great choice. He's the man right now in pro wrestling.
Number 2 this year was Swerve Strickland.
Swerve Strickland. Hey, he's the number one guy in the second top promotion in North America. So not a bad choice.
Number 3, Will Ospreay.
Will Ospreay, I don't think anybody's having better matches than Will Ospreay. So again, great choice.
Seth Rollins is number 4.
Seth is a guy that always has great matches. I don't feel like this has been his best year, but if you think about the time period of when this got picked, I can see that.
Yeah, that's what's always tough with the PWI 500 is it doesn't line up with like a regular calendar year. So when you think about what these guys did, you have to go back to like almost a year ago this time and then cut it off in July,
And he
which
was really making that world title mean something that everybody looked at as like Roman's, hand-me-down belt. So he did a really good job of making that title feel important. So I can see why Seth would be higher up.
definitely now halfway down the top 10, we have Tetsuya Naito coming in at 5.
I mean, one of the top Japanese wrestlers in the world. He's still the man in New Japan. I do think that he's looking like he's losing a step, and this might be one of the last years we see him so high. But I can see how he got there this year.
Yes, Damian Priest was number 6.
I mean, the Money in the Bank. He ended up probably getting the cash in right around this time when this was ending. I can see how he probably just made that list.
Yeah, number 7, MJF.
One of the greats probably would have been higher, but wasn't that active this year.
Yeah, I was surprised he was this high with given how long he was injured.
Yeah.
Number 8, John Moxley.
John Moxley's the man in terms of when I talked about Swerve being that guy and AEW becoming the man. John's been kind of the man for a long time. He's almost like their John Cena over there right now, right? Like he's their guy. I think if I'm trying to look at the time period, he probably just started cutting back on activity a little bit here. So he started the first year probably very active during this time period and slowed down. So that's a good pick.
Yeah, traded that IWGP title with Tetsuya Naito.
Yeah.
Number 9, Gunther.
Gunther is a guy you can look for to be a lot higher next year, I would imagine. It's kind of funny because now he's the world champion. He wouldn't have been the world champion probably at this time. But when you combine that world title with the fact that he's had nothing but great matches like a Will Ospreay, like I got to think this guy, if he's still champion next year or close to it, he's going to be in the top 5.
100% had that great Intercontinental title run. And number 10 is Mystico. Just recently wrestled Chris Jericho and CMLL at the 91st Anniversario show in the main event.
Yeah, and headlining, and he's probably CML's biggest star. So, and he's worked for AEW, New Japan. He's a guy that probably not everybody's going to be as familiar with if they were looking at this and like, who's that? But I mean, if you look at the PWI's criteria, Mystico's a perfect fine number 10.
Yeah, interesting fact for Cody Rhodes, they have him down for 114 matches with a 95% win-loss ratio, which is crazy. Now we are going to get into former guests on in the PWI 500. Okay. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them. Okay. Of all of our guests, who would you guess is the highest rated? We have 2 in the top 100, 1 in the top 50.
Oh man, you have totally caught me off guard with this.
Okay, and you got to dig deep for this too, because it's not even a name you're going to think about first.
No, because we've had a lot of veterans on our show, and they're not going to be names that make the list because most of them aren't wrestling anymore. And if they do, it's like a match here or there. So we can rule out probably the top names in terms of past stuff like Al Snow. Oh, wait a minute. Okay. Would it?
I had to think if we did this interview too.
Would it be Ross or Marshall Von Erich?
It would not be.
Okay.
You're gonna want to think independent wrestling
Yeah.
near the top of the order.
I mean, I'm thinking some of the NWA guys we've interviewed. AJ Kazana. Um, gosh. Uh, now, Alec Price is another one that comes to mind.
Alec Price is up there. He is in the top 100. He's
Yeah.
number 92.
Okay. All right. I'm stumped. Who we got?
Cruel, the independent
Oh,
wrestling
you.
heavyweight champion,
That's
came in
right.
at number 39.
Yes. So he was under another character at the time when we interviewed him. But yes, bit of a transformation. We knew him in his early days.
Yes, he was. Other notables, just give a quick reaction to each one. Number 183, Royce Isaacs.
Awesome. Awesome. And, he got that win recently on Bloodsport over Charlie Dempsey. So big things for that guy, I think.
Yes, we have an interview we did this year. Great interview. Good up and comer. Landon Hale, 380.
Hey, that's awesome. I'm happy for Landon. Great guy.
Number 383, Zoe Sager making her mark.
Interesting. Interesting. I like Zoe. She is a Lance Storm graduate, and she is really, really comes off as generally like just a really good person whenever I've talked to her.
Yes. Now, the last guest that made this list, number 465, LSG.
Oh wow, LSG. Yeah. Well, I mean, he's a guy that was I bet you higher some years because of his he had a pretty good run in Ring of Honor at one point.
Yeah. So that was great seeing the people that we've interviewed that have made the PWI 500. And if you want to go, it's always notable who the top pick is. But number 500 also makes the list. And I don't know how you pronounce this. Could
Uh-huh.
be memes, memes. They are otherwise known as Blue Cane. They wrestled Matt Cardona in GCW. Just an interesting pick, notable 500.
All right. Well, good luck to Blue Cane. I hope he can use something to propel that.
And now that we've covered the PWI 500, we are moving on to the comparison segment. Comparison segment always does well for us. And when I was looking up recent ones that you've put up, I saw
Yeah.
Kurt Angle, Mr. Perfect. Who was better bell to bell?
Mm.
And I really enjoyed this because I think it's a really good pick of which one of these two is it? Like Mr. Perfect from when we were young was just that, for lack of a better words, that wrestler that was always perfect in the ring, seemed to be able to do everything great. Never had a world title run in WWF, WWE. But I mean, even late in his career was still going at a high rate. And then you got Kurt Angle coming over from amateur wrestling. A lot of people said he picked it up like nobody's business.
Yeah.
And having to pick between these two, I was really racking my brain who I thought I would pick. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your thoughts behind this whole thing?
I mean, same thing. It's kind of like Mr. Perfect was one of the best bell to bell in his era, but then Kurt Angle was kind of the next era, that late 90s, early mid 2000s era. And Perfect was more, late 80s, early mid 90s. And, but both were considered so great at what they did. Kurt, obviously, I think, had the better career given all the world championships he's held. But man, is he better than Mr. Perfect in the ring? I would give Kurt Angle, I should say, the slight nod because even though Henning was so super talented and maybe a better old school type wrestler, if that's a way of looking at it, Kurt was just a different level than most people. I don't know like how many more people are better than Kurt Angle in the ring. Very few. I guess it depends what kind of style you like, though. Too. I feel Kurt Angle had more high impact moves.
Yes. And it's tough because, Henning might have wrestled some amateur, but he spent with his father being a pro wrestler so much of his life learning pro wrestling that I would have to give the nod to Kurt Angle, just because if you think what he had to overcome,
Yeah.
with his amateur wrestling training to those things that become second nature for you in amateur, you have to go against that grain in pro wrestling. The fact that he got so quick, so good, you got to give the nod to him. And Dave, we've said it before about certain wrestlers that have wrestled in Wembley Stadium. There were times he did it on drugs too. And when you're overcoming that kind of deficit,
Yeah.
not that Mr. Perfect wasn't,
Yeah.
but Kurt Angle did it at a high level.
Everybody's favorite thing they talk about is Perk Angle, right? So
Yeah.
no, he did it.
You got to give him that respect. So we're going to choose Kurt Angle here today. And we are getting to the title of this episode. And when I was searching for wrestling news to kind of talk about this week, not a ton was hitting me because we're still next week. We're going to bring you the Bad Blood review.
Yep.
And we're also going to have a bonus episode segment that we're going to be filming on In Your House Buried Alive. Can't wait to talk about that. But on Raw this week, we saw what looks like it's going to be the start of this, this fracture, this breakup between the New Day. Nothing is set in stone yet, but this is the most we've seen them divided. Where are you on this New Day breakup?
I think it's good. I mean, I know some people might be mad because they have such fond memories of New Day. I love the New Day, but they've kind of done everything as a tag team, and they've been at it for a while. And if you want to move on and do something, like you can't stay stale. And I think the thing is Kofi might be winding his career down too. I just have this feeling because he's been around for so long. He had his chance for the world championship for a bit. And, I think Xavier Woods still has a little more juice. And, and maybe, hey, I mean, these guys are so close, really behind the scenes. You've got to feel like I wouldn't even be surprised if they were both like getting ready to retire at some point. They just wanted to finish their careers against each other. But I don't know. I'm interested to see how this gets booked, where it goes, because Kofi and Xavier managed to really put something big here together when nobody was really giving them a chance. You can see how they organically got over many years ago. So I wonder if they can do something now and kind of recapture that magic a little bit.
Yeah, I remember when these guys were starting. I got behind it early. I remember the New Day Rocks chants that got the crowd to chant New Day sucks. And even when I was super into them, my brother, friends of mine weren't necessarily as behind them.
Yeah.
And then you saw the movement grow. You saw how beloved it got. And it was tough with them losing Big E. And we saw this storyline start with Odyssey Jones, obviously. And it looked like that was going to be a way to send them off. And now you've got the asking for assistance from other tag teams kind of splitting them up. I was, really kind of disappointed at first because I just enjoy them so much. I didn't want to see them split. But like you said, they've been at it for a while. It got stale at times. They didn't really have like these ebbs and flows. It would just always be a new t-shirt, a new something they were trying to promote. So this is giving it a degree of freshness. I'll see how it plays out, but I'm still sad to see the New Day crumble in here.
Yeah, I mean, I get it, but put me down as the opposite then because I'm ready to move on and let's see what you guys can do here. Let's go.
Nice. Well, we're down against the wire here. We've talked about everything planned for the week. Was there anything else in wrestling this week that kind of popped up that you thought was interesting?
Honestly, I feel like we're just getting ready. You know what I mean? We're getting ready for Grand Slam with McGinnis and Danielson, even though it's not officially announced. I think we all know it's going to happen. I mean, we didn't talk about it this week really because it technically happened last Friday, but SmackDown did debut on USA, and Cody and Solo opened up the show. And now that's leading to a tag match where we got Cody and Roman versus Solo. And I think even more important, at least for me, Jacob Fatu. And Jacob Fatu is going to get a chance to shine in that big main event spotlight against Roman and Cody. And I think that's going to be very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's going to be the main event with that Hell in the Cell, but it
true.
is going to be that big pay-per-view feature. And I did forget about that because this is like the superpowers combining.
Yeah.
And what's going to come out of this? Does The Rock somehow get involved? And this, no matter what comes out, it all is leading to Survivor Series. And I like the thing about, not wanting the team to happen. And then throughout the course of the show, it eventually came together. And then that's going to lead us to this week, what's going to happen. And, we've got there's a lot of wrestling coming up. You got Bad Blood next Saturday.
Yep.
Or no, not next Saturday, October 5th. So I believe that's 2 weeks from now. You've got Grand Slam coming up. You got Wrestle Dream coming up. So there's a lot of things. And once again, still WWE killing it with their setup of everything. I'm trying to rack my brain to think about what else really popped up this week. I mean, watching NXT, I just still can't get over how stacked that women's division is.
I'll tell you one thing I really liked before we got it was Bronson Reed and Braun Strowman.
That's another one. I wanted to mention that because I was talking with somebody at work.
Yeah.
What kind of match are they setting up for at Bad Blood? They were breaking everything in the arena. Is it last man standing? Is it falls count anywhere?
For a match that went to a no contest on Monday, I don't think I've ever seen a better booked, like two monsters going at it like in a short period like that. I mean, the opening spot where, I turned my head down literally for a second before the match was, and I look up and I see everybody like, ooh, and on. I'm like, what? And I just see Reed down, and I didn't see the turnbuckle for it. I'm like, what the hell happened? I thought something legit had happened. I rewound it, and I'm like, oh. I'm like, was that planned? I think. And then you realize, oh, okay. And then freaking Reed throws some plant in the audience right at Strowman. Then in the back, they're battling. They're going through stuff. Like, I just haven't seen too many brawls like that on WWE Raw in a long, long time. So it got me excited for this feud. It's really a great way to continue to put Bronson Reed over without really burying Strowman. So it continues everything on. What match do we see at Bad Blood? I hope we get some kind of version of a Monsters Ball match. I know it's not TNA, but I hope we get some kind of no DQ where they just beat the hell out of each other. Maybe a Falls Count Anywhere would be fine.
That's what I was thinking, just the way of them fighting around. And I don't want to leave this week not talking about AEW, but I just feel like WWE had so much more built up. I mean, Beast Mordos versus Ricochet was that was a nice matchup because two good flyers, good match to put in the ring there.
I enjoyed AEW this week, but I think I really just felt like I'm waiting for Grand Slam now. Like, we built up that's the next next big event I want to see. I think there'll be a lot to talk about AEW this week. There were some good matches. Great moment for Kyle Fletcher getting the win, for his team with Takeshita and Ospreay against the Bucks and Okada. Great showcase. But yeah, I think for me, AEW is like I'm ready for Grand Slam at this point.
Yeah, it was a great week for wrestling, and we have the greatest sponsors in the game. Let's tell you about them now. If you haven't tried Game Up, then you are missing out. Imagine your favorite seltzer and your favorite sports drink had a baby, but it's way better than that. Each can is 110 calories, low carb, 4.9 ABV. It's a nice light drink that is not light on flavor. Game Up comes in fruit punch, orange, lemon, lime, and grape. Pick it up at drinkgameup.com or at your nearest liquor store.
All you got your wrestling fans up there, listen, Old Black Bart has got a book. It's called Wrestle. Right there. It's got some dead good stories in there about some dead good wrestlers.
Read stories of Dusty Rhodes, the Von Erichs, Scott Casey, Sergeant Slaughter, Roddy Piper, Mr. Fuji, Ron Bass, Bruiser Brody, Mike Davis, the Grappler, and many others.
And I guarantee you one thing, that it'll be the best dadgum read you've had in a long time.
Get your book today at Russellville.com or on Amazon. Russellville, it's where wrestling lives.
Read about the Northern Wrestling Federation in the book presented by Russellville.com, The Pro Wrestling Vault, Volume 2. Hear the story of Roger Ruffin, the man who trained Carl Anderson, the Monster Abyss, Jordan Clearwater, Chris Harris, and Jillian Hall.
Plus 45 other short stories including Jazz, Bobby Eaton, Kamala, Thunder Rosa, Mario Mancini, Scott Casey, PJ Black, Kerry Morton, Sal Renaro, Jeremiah Plunkett, Colby Carino, Bam Bam Malone, and many others.
Get your book today at Russellville.com. Russellville, it's where wrestling lives.